Assalamu alaikum. Today, inshallah, we'll be looking into Maad. So in the Quran, there's something called Maad or stretching in English, or it means elongation. So how some letters of the Quran got their sound stretched for 2 counts, for 4 counts, and 6 counts. So my name is Imam Muhammad. I'm the founder and the director of Mahir Academy for Quran and Islamic Studies. Today, I want to look into the common mistakes a lot of beginners, reciters of the Quran make. And these mistakes are so costly that they change the meaning of the Quran. We have a concept in the Tajweed called al-Maad. And this is a form of reading rule that help to stretch the sound of a letter. And so there are 3 letters that denote elongation in the Quran. When these 3 letters exist right after another letter and they are silent, meaning they don't have any sound, they don't have a fatha, they don't have a kasra, they don't have a dhamma, they are used to stretch the sound of the letter that comes before them. So these 3 letters are alif, wawun, and ya. These are called the Maad letters, the letters of elongation. So when you've seen this in the Quran and you see them right after a word or a letter, you need to know how to use the rules. So today we'll learn and talk about one category of the Maad called al-Maddu tabi'i. Al-Maddu tabi'i is called the basic Maad or the primary Maad. The primary Maad in Tajweed elongates sound of letters for 2 counts. And most often time, if this Maad are not done on words or on the letter, it changes the meaning of the word and changes the meaning of the entire āyah in the Qur'an. And it could even change the meaning of an entire surah. So you want to learn how to perfect this so you're not making this mistake. So I know your child might have been making this mistake, or maybe you don't even know it's a mistake, or you yourself could have been making the same mistake, but you didn't see it to be a mistake. And these are some of the things that needs to be learned before you become a fluent Quran reciter. Many teachers do not ensure students master this concept. They just correct them without explaining why the child is wrong. Have you ever had a situation where a teacher is going to tell you, you're wrong, don't pronounce it that way, pronounce it this way? Many times, a lot of students do not learn to understand the foundations of Tajweed, and that's why a lot of students take too long to learn to recite the Quran. And if eventually they can recite, they don't really know the foundations of the Tajweed, and they fall back, they forgot, and they get frustrated. So we have situations whenever the Maad letter, any of the Maad letter, be it the alif, be it the waw Maad, be it the ya Maad, is omitted from a word of the Quran. Imagine someone want to call your name. Your name is supposed to be called Adam, right? Adam, right? The A is stretched. And instead the person said Adam. Adam, would you feel happy? You will not feel happy. The name's supposed to be Adamu, which is the correct pronunciation, right? The Hamza is stretched. But if you say Adam, would that person listen to you or even respond to you? No. And so if we pay so much attention to our own names and things that belongs to us, we should pay more attention to the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the Quran. I'm going to give you an ayah from the Quran that whenever the alif Maad that comes right after a letter that's supposed to stretch the sound of that letter, if that alif Maad is omitted or cancelled out of that letter, it changes the meaning of the entire ayah, not just the word, it changes the meaning of the entire ayah. And that's why the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah has used him to preserve the Quran. And our duty as Muslims, so we can pass on the correct pronunciation and recitation to the next generation, is to perfect our reading of the Quran. Make sure it is correct. So Allah said in Surah Al-Mutaffifin, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ثم إنهم لصالو الجحيم. This is the meaning of the ayah. Lasalu, pay attention to that word. Lasalu, meaning that moreover and after these criminals, the disbelievers, those who torment the Muslims, when they die and they get resurrected, they will surely burn in hellfire. Lasalul jahim. They will burn in hellfire. They will be thrown into hellfire and burn in there. That's the meaning of the word of the ayah in the Quran. But if you take out the alif Maad in the Sad and say ثُمَّ إِنَّهُمْ لَصَلُّوا الْجَحِيمِ. Like many students or beginners do have that mistake. They cancel the alif and they put a shadda on that lam. لَصَلُّوا الْجَحِيمِ. أعوذ بالله. The meaning of the ayah has changed to something different. It means then these disbelievers will pray to hellfire. لَصَلُّوا الْجَحِيمِ. You cancel out the alif and you change the meaning of the ayah. Instead of them being born in hellfire, it means they will pray to hellfire. A'udhu billah. Or an example from Surah Taha. When Musa alayhi salatu salam was asking Allah to give him fasaha and to give him a clean heart to meet Pharaoh so he can deliver the message. قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي. Look at the qaf there. Right? Pay attention to that qaf. Look at the alif. The alif that comes after that qaf. That alif is sakin. The alif is silent. That's an alif mad. That alif is supposed to elongate the qaf. قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي. قَالَ means he said. So Musa said, "Oh Allah, uplift my heart. Uplift my heart for me." Meaning, make my heart be able to withstand this message or this task that you want to give to me. Musa is asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for ease, for something good. But if you take out that alif from the qala and you pronounce it qalla, and the thing is that when you move out that alif from that qaf, the mad, you will not be able to pronounce that qala correctly. You're going to give shadda onto that lam. So many students will say qalla, right? قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي. Do you know what you just done, right? You've done something egregious. Egregious to the extent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you've not done it intentionally, Allah will not punish for that. But if you are doing it and you are being called upon not to do that, and you persisted in doing this kind of mistakes, then you'll be committing a sin with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you say, قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي, you're saying, insignificant, my Lord. Insignificant, my Lord, uplift my heart. Imagine, insignificant or trivial, my Lord. That's the meaning of qalla. Qalla means you're demoting someone, right? That's a different meaning entirely. But what changes that meaning of that ayah? Because you omitted an alif. So we need to pay very strict attention to reciting the Qur'an. Qala, harakatan. Qala. You need to make sure you do that correctly. Qala. You don't want to say Qalla Rabbi. La. When you say Qalla, you're saying insignificant, my Lord, or diminished, my Lord, or my Lord that is diminished, my Lord that is trivial. That's the meaning of Qalla. Meaning you are saying something Allah didn't mention in that ayah. I know a lot of people will say, oh, people do not do this, but to be honest, I've taught a lot of students for many years, and a lot of people come to learn the Quran with us, and the mistake I find out is that many students, even adults, they are making the mistakes of alif mad, waw mad, ya mad. It's not that they don't know it, but their teachers were not really correcting them. Or many students were not paying attention because the teacher have not explained the concept of mad to them. And this is why this session is really important, for you to understand that changing a letter, omitting a letter from Allah's word in the Quran, changes the meaning of the word and changes the meaning of the entire surah or the entire ayah of the Quran. Imagine what can happen in that situation. Another example that's very close is in Surah Ahzab. Allah is saying, الذين يبلغون رسالات الله ويخشونه ولا يخشون أحدا إلا الله وكفى بالله حسيبا. You know, Allah said hasiba. The meaning of the ayah, Allah is talking to the Rasulullah and telling him about those who do al-balagh. They obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and deliver the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't fear anyone. They fear only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ حَسِيبًا. And Allah is sufficient to put those kuffar to reckoning. So hasiba here means Allah will hold everyone accountable. Allah will make you account for your deeds on the day of Qiyamah. Hasiba. So there's a ya mad after that sin. Look at the word Hasiba. The sin has a kasra, right? You see that sin? Then there's a ya right after that sin. That's a ya mad, right? That's a ya mad. It's representing elongation for the sin. So the sin is stretched. Hasiba. But if your student now said hasiba, you took away the ya, it changes the meaning of that word from Allah is going to hold people to account to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will rethink their consequence. Allah already said what's going to happen. He will hold them accountable to their deeds. Allah now changes from a reckoner to what? To a rethinker. Someone that rethinks something that he needs to do, which is not right. So changing the word hasiba to hasiba changes the entire meaning of that word. You see how important the mad is in the Quran recitation, right? And another example before we go to the examples of when people add mad. So I'm talking about when you omit a mad letter. For instance, now Allah said, ثُمَّ كَلَّا سَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah said, and after they've died and they resurrected, they will know the truth. Allah is telling them about this dunya. Ta'lamun, they will know, or you will know. You will know that Allah is not joking when He asks you to worship. Allah is directly talking to everyone. ثُمَّ كَلَّا سَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ. And they will know, come to realization of what they've done on earth. You will get to come to the realization or to the knowledge and see that what you've done on earth that is evil will be accountable for. So ta'lamun, if you take away the waw mad, I've seen a lot of students, instead of them saying ta'lamuna, and they will say ta'lamun, thumma kalla sawfa ta'lamun. That's not correct. You've cancelled out the waw. Instead of you reciting ta'lamuna, you said ta'lamun. What does that mean? You are referring the āyah to the plurality of females. So meaning those females will get to know on the day of Qiyamah. Ta'lamun. Those females will get to know about the actions they've done on the day of Qiyamah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to everyone listening to the Quran, not just a specific gender. So when you take away a mad letter from a Quran word, it changes not the word alone, it changes the ayah, and sometimes might even change the message of the surah itself. So we need to be really careful on that. And so the other session, which is when people add mad, when you add mad to a Quran word, so there's not mad, but you added mad into it, that also changes the meaning. I'm going to give you one example on that. Allah said in the Quran, in Surah An-Nisa, when Allah is describing how the females and the males will get inheritance from their dead family members, Allah said, لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ وَالْأَقْرَبُونَ مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرَ نَصِيبًا مَفْرُوضًا. Allah is saying that the rijal, the men, will have a portion from what the dead have left behind. So they will have مِمَّا تَرَكَ الْوَالِدَانِ. So if their parent passed away, and the boys or the men will have a portion. And also the close relatives, not just the men or not just the kids, the boys, also the women and all the grandmothers who are left behind by the deceased. And also the women also, the nisa, they also have a portion. Allah says, مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرَ. So underline that, قَلَّ. Allah is saying, مِمَّا قَلَّ مِنْهُ أَوْ كَثُرَ. No matter how small or how huge the inheritance, everyone will have a portion from it. Mimma qalla. You see, Allah said qalla. Qalla there means small. Kathur means many. No matter how small the inheritance that is left behind or how huge is it, these people will have portion from it. But if you now say qala, instead of not having the alif mad, mimma qala minhu aw kathur. What does that mean? It messed up the meaning of the ayah. Mimma qala. So you're saying from what he said, from what the deceased said. Like, it doesn't make sense. From small, that's the word qalla, that small stuff that was left behind. Then you say qala. You pronounce an alif mad after the qaf. You see, that changes the meaning of that word to means what? Said, like he said, the deceased said. And this could mean a different thing entirely. So people can translate that to whatever the deceased have said before he left. Every of these people will have a portion of that he said, meaning whatever he said. It doesn't make sense, right? And so this is why Quran, surah, or ayat, or words are sacred. This is the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to humanity. And this is why the Quran is the most preserved book on earth. Imagine people are not really keen on these small mistakes. The Quran will have changed. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised that إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. It is we that will reveal the dhikr. The dhikr is the Quran. And it is we, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will protect the Quran. So need to pay attention to the Quran. So if you'd like to get started and perfect your recitation and learn the Tajweed, subscribe to this channel to listen and watch and follow with me every week on those small mistakes. Though you might feel you've learned to recite the Quran, you might be making some of these mistakes. Join me every weekend and tune into this channel, subscribe to it so you can learn more about your Quran and learn more how to recite the Quran perfectly. If you like to see how you can get your child started as well, there's a link below this video in the description. Check it out and see how we train our student here to get them to learn perfectly with Tajweed in 4 months. I'll see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.